Welcome back to First Gen Wealth. I am sticking true to my Rocket Mortgage roots, and I'm bringing on a dear friend of mine, Erica Vandenberg, who I met back in 2005, and she was one of my early mentors when I was at Rocket Mortgage. So back then Rock Financial, but
yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about that, but then I want to talk about you as now a business owner with you and your husband, and
sure.
Some of your mindset shift from going from an employee to a business owner. But there are a couple things that still hold true to me that I think about often that I learned from you. And I want to bring those up to you and just see maybe how those ideas or that mindset has evolved for you over the years.
Sure.
So you have no idea what I'm going to talk about. So,
I'm a little nervous.
The first thing is, and then I want to get into your business. I want you to talk about your business. But the first thing is, you told me, like, one of the biggest email etiquettes is respond to every email, even when you don't think you need to. Does that still hold true to you? And what was the thought process behind that way back when, and how has it evolved over the years?
Sure.
Do you remember saying that, first of all?
I'm probably not as good at it as I once was. In some ways, it's probably an easy thing to say when you're like a 21-year-old with your only responsibility is your professional life. So I may have been a little jaded back then. But I still hold true. Respond. Everyone wants a response. They need to be acknowledged. So even if you don't have the right answer or you can't give them what they want, just let them know that you see them. Remember that metaphor we used to talk about when you go to the bar and you're standing at the bar waiting to order the drink? You just want the bartender to you just want them to like look at you, even if they can't help you right now. But if they just make eye contact with you, you're like, okay, I know they're coming.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I know it's going to be here.
Or I'll be right with you.
Right.
And that, like, now I can wait another 5 minutes and it's okay, as opposed to just stand there. Yeah, 100%. The other one is we would present or make a lot of sales calls. And you always said that I always wait till I have to pee before I make a sales call because it'll make me close faster. So there's things that I know I need to do, like I got to pee, but I want to go do that first because I need to be in and out. And so is that still anything you ever think about?
Yeah, it's like a forced sense of urgency it's similar to how you can get just as much work done on a half day as you can a full day because you're giving yourself that limit and you're squeezing it in. And
literally squeezing it.
Yeah, you don't have time. You don't have time for like the nonsense or to procrastinate or to avoid.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that's all I want to talk about our past lives.
Sure.
I'm really excited to learn a little bit about your business because I'm intrigued and I still kind of don't understand like how you operate, but you and your husband own Platinum Motor Cars.
Right.
It's not like a typical car dealership from my understanding, right? You don't have hundreds of cars on the lot.
No.
Would you consider yourself more of like a car broker, or like kind of give me an idea of what the business is?
Sure. We are a car dealership. Technically, we're a used car dealership, but we specialize in high-end import vehicles. So we have a really niche customer base. It's not everyone. Most of our customers, they've bought 10, 20, 30 cars. This isn't... They might be transacting every 6 months. 60% of our transactions are with returning customers. And I think they're going to us because, one, they trust us and they enjoy working with us. And sometimes a car dealership experience can be really painful, I think, especially as a woman. But they're also looking for certain expertise. And when you're spending $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 on a car, maybe even more, you want some assurance that the people you're dealing with know what they're doing and what they're talking about. And I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to cars, but I have relatively figured out how to like run a business and how to transact, how to keep customers happy, how to meet all of the compliance rules set by the wonderful friends in Lansing. And my husband definitely has like a wealth of car knowledge and has spent the better part of a lifetime building the relationships with the other people in the industry that are needed to like get the customers what they want.
So you're talking about 100,000 plus values of cars, and you said 300,000 and maybe even more. Like,
yeah.
So when I think of that, I'm thinking of this inventory of, definitely hundreds of millions or billions. I don't like, how do you like sit on that? Like, give me like, do you go, if I'm a client and I say,
yeah,
I want this car, do you then go find them the car and then bring it back to them? Or do I have to choose from what you have available?
So it goes both ways, but, it's really, one, I don't think a lot of people do this because you have to have a really high risk tolerance, and you also have to be incredibly efficient. So you have to be really efficient at buying the right piece of inventory and then converting it quickly, right? Because you need to buy the next one, and there's like way more people waiting to sell than there are to buy. So managing that and becoming so incredibly efficient and nimble at moving that process and keeping cost in line and
if
being great at sales.
If you buy a $200,000 car today and then your buyer backs out and now you're stuck with that, that's a lot of money tied up.
Yeah, it's an issue. So I think like an average dealer, we actually do a lot of business with Young Chevrolet down the street. I would imagine their cars probably sit on their lap for like 30 days. Ours don't even usually make it a week. And usually we can place them with someone before they're even here. So it's knowing like this person is looking for a 23 McLaren 765 LT with the gold wheels. Okay, I found one. And we're transacting before the car is even here, and we've built up a relationship where they trust us with that. But it's a lot. There's definitely times where I think like, why didn't I choose like a business where the inventory cost a lot less? Because right then, like, unless you're a big dealer group and you have generational wealth, like you got to find the money and the capital, and that is like a whole other challenge for really any business.
Yeah.
But
so are you dealing with a line of credit where you're constantly churning that, paying it down, bringing it back?
Yeah. And investors, and then managing those expectations. It's, it's fun.
Well, you mentioned generational wealth. That's the name of this podcast. So thanks for that plug, is First Gen Wealth. And I would say, just based on my knowledge of you, meeting you early on, you were 21. Were you only 21 when you started there? So I think I was 25. So and we spent a lot of time together. Obviously we were working 10-hour days, but then our social life kind of evolved into, we just spent a lot of time together. I don't remember you coming from like a super wealthy family, probably modest. So
no, I did not hit the jackpot. The wealthy family, unfortunately.
But now you're a business owner. Your three beautiful daughters are sitting in the studio with us here today. Mm-hmm. And so, how has your expectation of, because you left Rocket and then you did something else and then you got into Platinum Motor Cars, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So how was the expectation of, okay, I'm an employee, and you were very successful there. You did quite well. Like I said, you were one of my mentors. I would never look up to somebody who was not doing well. So, how did the mindset shift from, okay, I'm an employee, I'm successful, I'm going to step out on this ledge and now become a business owner? And how was your initial expectation, and like, what's the reality of it?
Sure. I think it's, again, it's certainly like an easier transition to make when you're a young person and you can take those risks without thinking of, all of your fixed costs or all of the dependents that you might have. I also just always felt like, I know you're the same way. Like I didn't really need someone telling me what to do or how much to push myself. Like I was always going to push myself further than anyone else. Just like I felt like as a kid, I didn't need a parent to tell me like, this is wrong or you should do this. Cause I think I was harder on myself than like what anyone else was going to be. So I had that drive. And I think not coming from a wealthy background, it's like you want to get there. So you're going to get there one way or the other. It's like you're pushing yourself because you don't, right? You don't have another choice. So I made that transition, and I think for so long, it was just kind of a reality. Although now, for the first time in like 3 years, I actually have like, I feel like I went so long with the worst health insurance. And now that I have like good health insurance, every time I go to the doctor, I'm like, oh my God, it's only $30 copay. That's so wonderful.
That is one of the, we should talk about that more on maybe another episode.
Yeah.
As a business owner, health insurance is a challenge. Or for anyone that's a 1099 contractor or self-employed in any way, it is a challenge. But it also goes to show you like how much when an employer is employing you and they're offering you insurance, like I don't think the average person understands like how much of your compensation package, if you're making 60 grand, they're really paying 80, 90 grand out once you factor in insurance, the all of the payroll tax and everything else. You're a significant investment to an employer. So yeah, we see that as business owners for sure.
I'm such an advocate for like paid maternity leave, but then I think about like, what if I had to pay one of my employees for 3 months without any work and then have to pay someone else to do their job at the same, like, I don't think I could afford it. And it does add up. So I'm always like conflicted on that situation of like, as an employee, of course I would want that benefit. As an employer, it's a lot to like offer.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to sacrifice in other areas significantly to offset that cost.
Right.
Which means you're either going to get paid less or
you got to find it somewhere.
You have to find it somewhere, or you're making less money. It's, and that's hard as a business owner because there are some months that are already so slim anyway to like, there's some months that are really good as a business owner.
Right.
But there's always that, you're 100% commission all the time. And so, yeah, that's interesting that that conflict of how you would behave as an employee versus now thinking about that as an employer.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your mindset shifted slightly about responding every time, even if you don't think you need it, because as a 21-year-old focusing on your career, it's way different now as a mom, as a business owner, as bus driver to the kids and everything else you've got going on, like running a business. And I imagine you guys are there a lot and you have to respond to your customers' needs at all hours.
Yeah.
How is it raising a family, with, and there you 4 to, you said 7, 8, 12? 11?
Yeah.
7, 8, and 11. Like that's a handful.
I do think I'm through the toughest part. I think like, babies and toddlers are much more challenging. These guys are pretty awesome at this stage, and I'm not like, they can sustain themselves. But yeah, it was wild. I mean, I think we went in a 6-year span. I was pregnant or nursing for 6 years while running a business. Yeah, I was thinking about it last night. I don't think Said and I were at our best during that period. But also, like, they're great, and parenting is the best part of all that we're doing. So it does give me a lot more joy than work does. Mm-hmm. So you make it work and prioritize, and hopefully they get dragged everywhere. Yeah. And they did from day one, but I also think it is turning them into like awesome little people who have some understanding of the world and can sit still and function in society.
I'm impressed with the sitting still so far. Which of the three, and this is awkward because they're sitting here staring at you right now. Do you see any of them eventually taking on the business or taking on a role with Platinum Motor Cars? Is that something you and Said have talked about, where we've started this, we're building it, eventually there's going to be a successor, or does the business die with you?
I think part of our exit strategy is selling the business at some point. Like, the goal is to grow it or to replicate it in other markets and then to sell it. I don't think we want to be doing this for the rest of our lives. So, and I would hope that they kind of have their own identity, and maybe they can have a less stressful line of work or pursue their own passions.
What is the most stressful part of doing what you do?
I think like twofold. One, managing the money. It's a lot, right? There's a lot of money coming in and coming out. We've definitely made, I had one employee, like we've gone through like the stage of an employee stealing from you. We've gone through good staff, bad staff, and trying to make ends meet. So I think overall, like managing the capital and the turn time is like the biggest challenge. And it seems like no matter how much you grow, it's still there. Like even when we were really small and barely had any money to operate versus now, it's still like the pressure is still there. On the other side of things, like the business we started a couple of years ago, Out of Office Garage, now we have a space and we're storing other people's cars. So now I'm responsible for like $20 million worth of cars that are not my own. And that like keeps me awake at night thinking like, just again, you're like mitigating risk of like, how can I make sure nothing happens and these cars are safe and these people trust me and continue to pay me and want to engage with our business. So putting all those safeguards in place and training your staff and just trying to eliminate any risk of something, any chance of something going wrong. I've seen you post about
Out of Office Garage quite a bit. Is it just strictly a storage unit, or do you?
No,
it's a coffee shop, or like I feel like there's like a mix of different things.
I think I maybe went through like a similar process that you went through with this building of, it was a building that was kind of dilapidated and we spent a few years renovating it, and now it's this fantastic space, and part of it is a lounge space and people work from there, like members work from there during the day. We host events there. And then the other part of it is a huge warehouse, and there's lifts in the warehouse. We have a turntable, and then we like detail cars in the back and do like some other type of work back there. So we try to make just a really fantastic space that people are drawn to, and it's serving a few purposes. So club members are there. If they choose to store their cars, they do. Otherwise, they're just there to be like part of this car enthusiast community. And the space gets rented out. Like GM has shot a couple commercials there. Cadillac debuted a new car there. So we try and find like other ways to use the space as well to generate revenue.
So I can be a member and not store.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just bought a 2007 F-150. It's a little beater.
Yes.
That wouldn't be like your typical client storing a vehicle there.
I'm not sure it would be worth the price to store the vehicle, but we'd be happy to have you as part of the membership.
So what's the like if I want to become a member? What is you said I can work from there?
Yeah, you work from there, and then we host events. It's honestly just like we have about 75 members now, and it's really incredible, Jimmy. They're all awesome people, a lot of business owners, but they've all created like their own relationships amongst each other. There's a lot of business transactions that happen amongst them. I think it's similar to like what a country club would be, but for a car enthusiast. So we get together, we have like a Formula One league, we do these sim racing things, we take trips. We were just glamping for a weekend at the Fields in South Haven. And we host different charity events that we get the members involved in, which is always wonderful, and do different dinners and try and support each other's businesses. So it's going pretty good. The model exists in most other major markets. Like if you're in Miami, New York, a lot of the places out west have this, especially like the LA area. This is the first one really in Michigan.
And what could that evolve into? I mean, is that you've got the Platinum Motor Cars?
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of your members of Out of Office Garage are also clients of Platinum Motor Cars.
Yeah, they cross-feed each other.
And is there any other potential synergies that you see that could expand from that? Or are you kind of like thinking like, we're just going to focus on these two things and make sure we're doing right by these two things?
We definitely want to expand the club, and it can work in other places. But the part that's tricky, and I'm sure you know this, I think in business, so much of it is just relationships. And so, we've spent a decade and a half now, like building relationships in the community that we're in. So I do see a challenge of like, if you just show up in a different city, like how do you do all that, and how quickly can you forge those relationships? But I guess people do it all the time, right? Like people are franchising all over the place, and somehow it works for them. So there must be a way. But I do think like the relationships are kind of like the key to success in any business. And that's what allows us to maybe get favors and do favors and find efficiencies and ask for favors, is because you've built these relationships over the years.
And you're based out of Birmingham?
Yeah.
For both the garage and the dealership?
Yeah.
And are most of your, I mean, that's a higher income area, are most of your clientele like in and around Birmingham, or do you see people from all over the state or even the country that are reaching out to you for different vehicles?
So for the dealership, over half of the transactions are with customers that are out of state. So we're transacting a lot just online, not face-to-face as much. For the club, yeah, I would say it's not everyone, but I would say like a majority of them are in Oakland County. Certainly Birmingham. I think when you get to like other areas, those people might have more space and they might not have a need to like store a car because they have a huge garage that fits 10 cars or something.
Yeah. So if I forgot my question because it was on the tip of my tongue and I wanted to ask it and I hope it comes back to me. Your clientele, I know what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So let's say I reach out to you, whether it's online and you don't have any previous experience with me. And I want this $200,000 vehicle. Like what kind of vetting do you do for me? Because you're saying the risk, like you're going to go out and find this vehicle and then now you're relying on this guy to write the check or wire the money. Like how can you trust me to follow through on that if I'm seeking out that type of vehicle?
Sure. I think you can ask questions to sort of gauge, like, is this someone's first transaction? Or have they done this before? Are they comfortable with how this process works? And they will ask questions about it and what happens. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not releasing a car or a title or paperwork until someone's paid me.
Yeah, but I understand that you might go acquire a car.
Yeah, no, I'm not acquiring any cars until someone is like really vetted and qualified. Yeah, so I'm looking for like, do we have any shared connections? Where else have you bought cars from in the past? Most likely I know those people if it's in the same line of work. Are we trading? Do you have a car that you're looking to trade? Where are you from? Probably doing a little Googling and figuring out who the person is and how it's going. But usually I think just based on people's apprehension and the questions that they ask, and overall, I feel like 85% of the time, the leads that are coming in, like, they're pretty solid leads. Because I'm not advertising in everywhere, right? I'm only really targeting, like, the people that I know are my target demographic. The leads that are coming in are fairly well qualified.
You're not advertising in Owasso, is what you're saying.
I'm not like, I always get offered like advertising on the radio. Like, no, it's not worth it. Yeah. Right. I'm better off. Like, it makes way more sense for me to spend $5,000 and host a dream cruise party and invite all my customers to come and connect with them and get face to face with them and have them bring their family or their friends for the event than it does for me to do like some kind of mailer or advertise online. That just doesn't work for what I'm doing.
You mentioned Young Chevrolet here in Owasso, and they push out a lot of cars. Like whether it's them or like another traditional dealership, Ford or Buick or whoever. How do you partner with dealerships? What do you do to?
Well, with trucks, believe it or not, we do have a lot of requests for large, nice trucks. These trucks, I mean, you can like really spend like almost $200,000 on trucks these days. So sometimes we work with the domestic dealers on acquiring them for customers. Okay. I would say that's probably like the most of what's happening.
Gotcha. So they would still make the sale, but they're kind of doing it on behalf of you, and then they
or they'll sell the car to us.
I gotcha.
Yeah, they sell the car to us, and then we'd sell it to the end customer.
Yeah.
And also there's there's a lot of these cars that like are in very high demand, so they're going for over sticker. So if we can like get an order in the beginning to get the car and then sell it, there's some potential for margin on that side too.
Yeah, the margin can't be that high though. Is it? I mean, on a truck, if it's a brand new truck and you're getting it from the dealership and then essentially acting as a middleman, is that you mean
there's only just like very specific cars that will have a margin that's worth pursuing. So, and also like 2 years ago, there was definitely a margin, but now things have definitely normalized. For better or worse. And
probably better for the consumer, maybe.
Yeah. It's all right. It's just supply and demand. So when they're releasing like a new Raptor and there's only a few of them, and there are people who will pay a premium to have it first, like getting it first before anyone else has it does feed the ego a bit, and there's an opportunity there if you can acquire it.
I think you didn't give yourself enough credit. I think you know a lot about vehicles and cars. I know Syed is, way more into that and always was.
Yeah.
And you've now become passionate about it. But you named a car, a McLaren, and a bunch of letters and numbers. I have no idea what that is. Yeah. So I don't know anything about cars. You know a lot more than me about when it comes to cars. So I just think it's wild how even Syed, your husband, was a former Rock Financial guy, Rocket Mortgage guy. That's how you guys met. That's how we all met. He left and started his own valet company, right? He was basically going to different restaurants and bars and private parties and doing a valet
He
service.
had the valet business. Yep. It's still he's not part of it, but that valet company still exists, and we do business with it now at Valet's events that we have. So he's really come full circle on that one too.
Okay. Well, one of the nice things about Syed was he didn't drink. So he was our chauffeur as well quite often. So, well, I think it's incredible what you guys are doing. I think it's such a niche thing that, again, I kind of knew what you did. I sold you guys a car. I don't know if you remember this, way back in like 2008. It was a Chrysler 300.
Yes. Yes.
And I think Syed did it as like a favor to me. Like he gave me an extra, $1,000 or whatever compared to what I would have gotten.
Right. Sounds like him.
So thank you, Syed. It really propelled me into whatever we bought next. So I think it's really cool what you're doing. And I think it's just really cool that your daughters get to see everything that you do, because every time you post about anything, I feel like they're right there with you. And so for them to be brought up in that business world, understanding like the stresses that come along with that, you're talking about massive swings of cash flow in and out, but dealing with people. It's an education that they're getting that the majority of kids in America just do not get.
Yeah.
So I think you're knocking it out of the park.
We're trying. We're trying.
At least with parenting.
I think one thing I was thinking about last night when I was thinking about this interview too, there's this like idealistic vision of what it's going to be like owning a business and all the right things to do. And then I think the reality is it's really messy, and you, at least in our case, like there's no boundaries. Like clients are friends, friends are clients, friends are investors, clients are investors. Like it's all like muddled, and you don't shut off at 5 p.m. Sometimes like if some of the guys that work for me, they'll be like, I even replied to that person at 8 p.m. I replied to their text, and I was kind of laughing like, it was like that.
You have to.
You have to. Like you don't get to like grow and acquire wealth and meet the goals that you want without like replying to people all the time and without like doing more than what the next guy is willing to do. So just continuing like going at it and accepting that it doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like.
Randy and I have talked about that where, there's people talk about your work-life balance. Like you got to like be done with work and then enjoy life. And really to me, it's more just being balanced, because, work is life, and you can find fulfillment out of your work.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with your clients. And when Randy and I talk about that, we're business partners. We're brothers, but we're business partners. and our families are involved in those businesses. And then all of our friends are clients. Like you said, it's hard to separate my work from my life, and my employees are like family to me
exactly.
too.
Yep.
So I think, as a business owner, to me, you automatically have a work-life balance because it's all one thing. And to me, that's one of the coolest things about being a business owner is I don't have to separate the two. It's just my life.
Right.
And I really kind of love my life.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's a good way to end it. So thank you so much. You're heading up to Frankfurt.
We are, yes.
So, and you just got back from Vegas?
I did. It was a quick trip, but yes.
Other perks of being a business owner is flexibility in your schedule.
Yes. I'm sure my staff is not really happy with me, but we're going to try working remotely and see how it goes.
Well, very good. Well, it's been way too long since we've seen each other, so thank you for making the drive to
Thanks for having us.
And I think next time it'll be me and my brother again, so we look forward to that.
Let's hope so.
Thanks, and we'll see you soon.